Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for making the time for today's Get Back to Business webinar. This is another in our ongoing series of complimentary education webinars that we regularly provide free of charge for both clients and non-clients. Look out for others. We aim to produce and present one every 4 to 6 weeks or so. For those that don't know me, my name is Jim Bell. I'm the director at JBA. As always, I'm keen to get this information out to you as soon as I can. And with my other team members usually doing some other urgent work for clients, I've decided to present this and future webinars without moderator support. So please bear with me if things go astray. Hopefully, there will be time at the end of the webinar for some questions. If for some reason I can't get to them, please send me any by email after the webinar and I will get back to you. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the webinar environment, these are the Zoom settings. So let's take a quick look at them and see what webinar controls we have. You select audio settings to select and test your speakers. You can submit questions via the Q&A button. And as I said, if I can, I'll get to them at the end of the webinar. And click leave meeting if you need to leave at any time. All attendees will receive a follow-up email after the webinar, perhaps tomorrow. And we'd love your feedback, whether or not you left early. Now, before I go any further, could somebody please raise their hand just so that I can see that I'm being heard and the slides are okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thought of the day. Well, we've got a huge amount of information to get through today, so before I touch on the thought of the day, I'd encourage you all to take notes. There is a lot of information and I will be going fairly quickly through it. But in any future email, if anyone wants to ask any questions or get something a little bit more detailed going forward from the webinar, that'll be fine. We're here to help. So, thought of the day, a rising tide lifts all boats, John F. Kennedy. Before we start in detail, I just want to reflect on the situation we find ourselves in. While I know this isn't the case for everybody here, some of us may be facing potential losses of our business, maybe our livelihoods and even our homes. Some of us will be feeling anxious, depressed, scared and apprehensive. These are very unique times. Success in 2021 is likely to look very different to how we may have defined success at the beginning of 2020, only 15 or so months ago, prior to the initial 4-week lockdown we all experienced. Equally, failure is important to embrace too. While it may be difficult, we learn most when we fail. What is important is that as human beings, we're all in this together and we will come through it together. You and your families, you and your friends, you and your business colleagues, of which we are proud to be part of. In the words of JFK, a rising tide lifts all boats. The more we support each other, the better we will all do. We're here to offer you that support and we want to help. Before we get stuck in, I just want to throw in our usual disclaimer that the information in this educational webinar is general in nature and no substitute for tailored advice specific to your own particular circumstances. Today, we're going to look at some of the challenges you might be faced with and the mindset you'll need to overcome them. We're then going to help you focus on what you can control, in particular key areas of your business that will help mitigate risk and get the best outcomes for your business, including your product or service mix, your marketing and communication, human resources, finance, and how you can plan to get your business on the best footing for the rest of 2021 and beyond. As I said earlier, there will be a lot to take in today, probably a bit more than my usual webinars. Nevertheless, the slides will be available in the future for anyone that wants them. And of course, the webinar itself will be put up on our website in a day or two after it. And thirdly, if you have any specific questions, come back to me in the future. Challenges to overcome. I'd like to acknowledge that the last year has obviously extremely challenging. For some of you, the biggest challenge you face is whether your business will even survive. I hope that by the end of this webinar, you will feel confident about the steps you can take to give your business the best chance of survival and even growth. And for those that aren't in any survival mode, I know there are things you can take away from today that will help drive you to even more success. The needs for every business right now will be different, but they are likely to be some common themes and challenges we can use to form key goals for the next year. The types of challenges you may be facing may include the new break-even level you need to achieve, the changes you need to make to your product or service mix, the HR changes you might need to make, for example, by hiring a new team member or outsourcing tasks, the government support that may be available to help you get back to business, how you can get better deals with suppliers when they're also suffering, and how to prepare for another lockdown. Overcoming these challenges might not be easy. If it was easy, you probably would have done it by now, right? So it's key to set aside time to work on your business and develop your strategy for getting back to business. And those of you that are here, I thank you for doing that, because in these uncertain times, it isn't always easy to set aside time. So well done for doing that. One of the first steps you can take is to develop or update your risk register to help you profile the risks you have and establish your focus. Your risk register should identify the risks within each of your business departments and evaluate the likelihood of the risk eventuating and the consequences for your business if it does eventuate. By allocating a score out of 5 for each, you can multiply them to establish an overall risk rating, highlighting the most significant risks for you to focus on. If your business doesn't have a risk register, we have a free template we can give you. I know I'm preaching to the converted here when I talk about embracing change. I know that. You've been dealing with change for the last 12 months or longer. One example of the changes you have made is to attend this webinar, and many of you have in fact attended others that we have presented. I want to share a couple of mindsets relating to change to ensure you don't take your foot off the change accelerator just yet. I'm sure you've all heard of Einstein's famous definition of insanity, doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. Now is clearly the time to do some things differently. If we do the same things we always did, we won't even get the same results. In this new order of things, we'll often get worse results. So let's touch on the 5 A's of change. The first step is awareness. Awareness that change is needed, and that without change, your business is going to be impacted in a negative way. Are you aware of all the necessary changes? I'd guess probably not. I don't think any of us are. We don't know what we don't know, right? Hopefully by the end of today's webinar, though, you'll be a bit clearer on some of the changes you need to implement. The second A of change is acceptance. To get back to business, to get back to profitability, we must accept that we'll need to make changes. Next is action. Without action, there will be no change. We must determine the actions that we need to take as part of a plan for getting back to business. If you're anything like me, awareness, acceptance, and action is not going to be enough. We may have the best of intentions, but things get in the way if we don't make the time to take those actions. We also need the 4th A of change, accountability. We need someone independent to check in with us to keep our plan up to date and make sure we act. And we at JBA, we practice what we preach. We have somebody that we check in with to make sure that we are doing the things we're supposed to do to keep our business bubbling along. The 5th A of change is most likely the most important, acknowledgement. Change is not easy, so if we acknowledge and celebrate the changes we're making, no matter how big or small they are, it's important and it's more likely that we maintain those actions and changes going forward. Give yourself a pat on the back for any positive changes you may make to your business. You're one step further being better off. And like I say, there's small and large changes, but all are going in the right direction should you make them. The next mindset that will help us keep the change accelerator on is the results mindset. We know that we can't keep doing what we've always done if we want different results. So how do we ensure that we get the results we want? Well, in our experience, a goal without a plan is just a wish. I know many of you have heard me express that before, but it really is a fundamental driver of what we do. A goal without a plan is just a wish. First, we have to decide what we're going to do. We need to take our thoughts, our ideas, and our plans and put them into 4 or 5 key goals for the year. Any more than 4 or 5 key goals, we're probably going to run the risk of overwhelm. Like I said, there's a lot of information in here, but we need to strip out much of it to come down to 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 key pointers to drive our businesses forward. Then for each of the goals, we need to break them down into actions. We need to take those actions to ensure we achieve those goals. These goals and actions will form the basis of our plan. Then remembering the 4th A of change, unless we have accountability, it's likely that other things will get in the way and the plan won't become a reality. Having someone independent to hold you to account will make sure the plan is actioned. And this is the same, not just with business, but with sport and with other types of life events as well. These 3 components are essential to achieving your desired results. In other words, the power of your plan is in its implementation. It's all right thinking it through, even writing it down, but we must implement it. As we embrace and set our new plan, we need to get very clear on our focus. What are the areas which are within our control and will have the greatest impact on our results? We also need to consider things we should stop doing so we can free up time to do new things, because what we can say yes to is often defined by what we actually say no to. To help get back to business, there are 5 areas which are likely to have the biggest impact. Firstly, working on the business, because it's essential that you take time out of working in the business to work on it. Next, reviewing your product or service mix to respond to your customers' changing needs. We must also consider marketing and communication. Do we have a plan for communicating that you're still in business, that you're back in business, that you're growing your business? Can we attract a different sector of the market? Then, what human resources do we need? What are your resourcing gaps? Do you need to recruit new team members? Are you over-resourced in some areas? Lastly, we'll look at finance, profitability, and cash flow. This is about your personal budget as well as your business budget. What changes do you need to make to your budgets? What bank and government support do you need? So I've talked philosophically, perhaps in general up to now. Let's look into some of these areas in more detail. There are lots of cliches about working on the business, but what does it really mean? What does it actually mean? You hear us talk about it frequently, but what does the nitty-gritty say about it? Well, working on your business, to my way of thinking, is when you take time out of your day-to-day role and focus on planning. It's easy to get bogged down in the daily tasks, the grind, and forget to concentrate on what your future should look like and what you want your future to be like. Without a plan, you don't have a clear understanding of what you want to achieve. And once you've set the plan, you need to review and update it regularly. Your best efforts setting the plan today aren't worth anything if you never look at it again. That time and that effort and that cost will be wasted. So you need to set aside time to document your plan and then regularly set aside time to ensure you're on track. Remember, a goal without a plan is just a wish. As a leader, there are key habits you need to develop to ensure you have the best chance of success. Dedicating time to work on the business regularly. Keeping your plan up to date. taking time outside of the business for your own well-being, staying positive and above the line. In other words, focusing on what we can control, measuring the right things and taking time to look at our numbers. All components of leadership, of the figurehead of your business. We always recommend as best practice that our clients have 3 essentials: an annual business plan, an annual cash flow forecast, and ongoing reporting and accountability. You've all heard that before, I'm sure. A number of our clients have all 3 of these, and it's great to see how they have really taken ownership of their business and improved it. Not just turn up for work every day and hope, but they actually are achieving milestones as they go, day to day, week to week, month to month. A plan is essential to set the direction of your business. A forecast is essential to stay on top of cash flow. Ongoing reporting allows you to monitor your progress against your plan, and accountability can be the difference between achieving your goals or not. This image depicts the 10 departments of every business, and no matter how big or how small the business is, those businesses, big or small, will have the same departments. They might merge slightly, and people may be responsibility for 1, 2, or 10. But no matter how big or small, all businesses fundamentally have these departments. And the link between working on the business in a strategic role as director or owner and the link between operational departments, as you can see, all interlinked, with the strategic being above the line, for want of our expression, and the operational being below the line. Think broadly about how each department needs to respond to either getting back into business or improving your business. We're going to focus on the 4 which are likely to be relevant to all of you, but there may be other departments which are equally important to you too. Perhaps, and arguably, the biggest area of opportunity in the current climate is to review your product or service mix. No doubt your own customers and clients have had changes in their business, so they may need different or more things from you. I'm sure you've probably already thought about the changes you can make to your products or services. Things like diversifying your offerings to your customers, moving online if you haven't already, or even focusing on different customers. You should have information on hand to evaluate each product or service to see which are selling and which aren't. Have any of your products or services become obsolete? If they have, are they necessary to keep just to drag other services in, or can they be ditched? Dragging other services in, we call them loss leaders. They are important. They shouldn't be ditched, but those that actually owe your business nothing should be ditched. Are there any complementary products or services you could add to your mix? Here's a useful framework for you to make a plan for adapting your product or service mix. It's called the Ansoff Matrix. You may have seen this before, but it's really useful to help you determining your marketing strategy and understand the risks when expanding the things you're going to be offering your clients, your customers. The framework shows 4 strategies for growth based on new and existing markets and products. The first strategy is market penetration. This means selling more of your existing products in your existing markets. There are so many ways to do this. For example, communicating with customers so they're aware of your full offerings, training your team to cross-sell or upsell. Would you like fries with that? Cheesy, but it works. Or starting a loyalty program, perhaps, to encourage customers to buy more often. This is the lowest risk and most cost-effective strategy. Next, it's a matter of choosing to either develop a new product to sell to your existing market or sell your existing product to new markets. If you choose product development, think about either enhancing your current products or services to add more value or developing entirely new products or services. Or if you choose market development, you could expand geographically by opening in new locations or target new segments. The final strategy is diversification, and this involves both new products and new markets. Compared to the other strategies, this is incredibly high risk, and in times of uncertainty, such as now, we tend to think in the main that this strategy should be avoided. That said, there's always the exception to the rule, but strategies 1 through 3 offer less risk and probably more bang for your buck. But however, what's important though is to avoid taking on too much at once. Don't do nothing, but equally don't try and reinvent the wheel across every sector, every product, every market. Start with 1 or 2 strategies which will help you sell more of your existing products in your existing markets to your existing customers. That will give you the foundation, the base, the strength, and the confidence to dip your toe into the slightly more risky areas of perhaps product development or market development. As part of your review of your product or service mix, you're likely to review your pricing. You may be tempted to discount prices, hoping this will result in more sales and an increase in gross margin, or you might consider increasing your prices as a way to grow your revenue. Before changing your prices, you must understand the impact this will have. For example, if your gross margin is 30% and you discount your price by 10%, you'll need to increase your sales by 50% to keep the same profit level. Now, don't worry too much about the percentages. These documents are available, as I said earlier in the webinar, should you require them, free of charge, and we can email them to you. But I'm just trying to get the principles across here. Or if you choose to increase your price by 10% at the same gross margin of 30%, your sales could reduce by 25% before your gross margin will reduce to a level lower than what it was before you changed the prices. So as you can see, an increase in price or a change in gross margin is going to have large impact on your business, and you need to identify that before making those critical decisions. Like I said, if you email us with your webinar feedback, we'll send you these tables after the webinar to help you establish your pricing levels. If you're unsure what your gross margin is, we can help you calculate that too. I said there'll be lots of information, and there is, and it's covering lots of different grounds, but I think most of you will be able to take away from here certainly some learnings. So now we move on to marketing and communication, and we do point out we're certainly not marketing and communication experts. We're general practitioner chartered accountants, but nevertheless, all business touches on marketing and communication. There's never been a more important time to get clear on your marketing and your communication strategies. One thing's for sure, your loyal customers will be eager to support you as you get back to business or as you work your way through these COVID and uncertain times. And there lies an opportunity for you to broaden your customer base. By clearly communicating your intentions across multiple channels, your advocates, your loyal customers can like, tag, and share their support. Start by crafting your message, which above all else should be simple and clear. From a health perspective, reassure your customers and your team that you've taken necessary safety measures to keep them safe. Explain how you manage physical distancing, safe payment processes, cleaning, etc. At the very start, in fact, just before the 4-week lockdown back in March last year, we made a point of putting on our emails footers that we were taking steps to keep clients that attended our offices safe. And we made a point of noting what one or two of those steps were. And when clients attended our offices, there were signs stating the things that we were doing and asking of them so that everybody could stay safe. Next, it's important to clarify any changes in opening hours or operations and then promote any new products or services. Communicate these key messages in the right places. They should be promoted on your website, across your social media channels and Google listings, on your physical premises, in your email signatures, perhaps via text message, Facebook Live, and so on. Don't assume your customers will go looking for this information in the same place. A potential customer may need to see your message a couple of times before they prioritize spending with you. It's about relaying key information, managing expectations, and inviting feedback. Now is a fabulous time to try something new in the market space, as there's empathy and appreciation for businesses doing things outside the square, adapting in these challenging times. And it's not just me or us at JBA telling you to do that sort of thing. We've taken it on board too. These webinars that we now regularly produce are examples of that. Prior to the initial lockdown a year ago, we didn't produce and present any webinars. Now we're doing them frequently. Use regular touch points with clients and customers to reiterate the safety message. Practice what you preach and demonstrate your safety measures to keep customers' anxiety levels low. For example, in some medical centres that we're aware of, doctors have been taught to wash their hands in front of the patient. Really simple, but really effective. Or another example is to verbalize as you sanitize, telling the customer, I'll just quickly sanitize my hands before scooping your ice cream. Real simple stuff, but stuff that we all probably take for granted or don't think about. Craft a unified message to keep your audience updated and anticipate any questions you may get. Script some responses for your team so they can convey clear and consistent messaging. This is important for maintaining customer trust, for restoring and keeping employee morale, and returning to some kind of normal. If all messages from your firm, from your company are the same, and they're timely, and they're relevant, and they're empathetic, and they're considerate of customer needs and challenges, then you're going to get the best result. It's a sort of thing as human beings we need, we want. Once you're clear on your messaging, what you're telling clients, customers about what you're doing now in these different times, it's time to document your plan for getting the message across. Get back to basics. Consider who your most profitable customers are and how you'll target them. Create a clear plan to deliver visually engaging content across your marketing channels to promote awareness of your offerings. Tell them what you do, tell them what you can do for them. They may not know. Consider ways to get your communications to stand out above the noise. Get creative and consider new promotions. Perhaps it's time to celebrate customers who were loyal to you during the crisis, or deliver co-marketing with other non-competing businesses to your customers. Whatever your strategy, stick to your brand values, put yourself in your customers' shoes, and make it easy for them to do business with you. Seek to enjoy some quick wins. Marketing is about momentum, which starts with very few and simple activities, but it gets on a roll. And as you tick off each win, congratulate yourself. They're important. HR, human resources, is another hugely important consideration. Your plan should assess your current HR needs. Can you afford to keep all of the existing team on board? We know of a number of clients who couldn't. With your changed product or service mix, do you need to recruit new people or take back some of those that perhaps had previously been laid off? You'll need to clarify your desired structure before looking for new employees. You need to know what you want out of your human resources. You should shape new roles based on what the business needs and fill them with the right people, rather than attempting to shape existing people into new roles without due consideration of their experience and abilities. It really is unfair to take somebody out of what they're used to doing into something completely foreign to them, which is way out of their experience or ability, and expecting them to perform positively for the business. Having the wrong person in a role can be very damaging in the long run, both for them and for your business. So assessing your HR needs within each of the 10 departments we looked at very briefly earlier on in the webinar is a great way to future-proof your organization structure. And it may well be that your HR needs are changing as time goes by, as you grow, as you achieve the wins that we were talking about a moment ago. You may need to bring one or two more people on. All positive stuff. So think about your business as a bus. You're the driver and your team members are the passengers. Who's currently on it? Who is definitely along for the ride, and who needs to get off at the next stop? Perhaps your bus was a double-decker or a combi van, but needs to be downgraded to a mini in order to survive. Apart from being the driver, are there any other responsibilities you should take on? In other words, you may find that with a reduced sales or a change in your product mix, you might have capacity to put back some of the hats you've previously taken off. Again, an example, you may be able to take on the role of salesperson instead of employing someone full-time. Or maybe you could outsource your marketing department instead of having in-house resource. Thinking outside the square, leasing or renting people to do what you need only when you need to do them, and taking on some responsibilities that may be able to be done now, whereas in the past they were divested of you as the business owner. You may have already reduced the size of your team significantly, and now with the positivity from surviving COVID and starting to grow again, the business is moving forward, you may need to recruit. There may even be some government support available to help with this. So this needs to be looked into. In any event, every business should be reviewing their HR needs and ensuring their bus is the right size with the right passengers on board, and that together you're in the best possible space to support each other to perform. The healthy mind platter is a great concept to keep front of mind in challenging times to ensure you're looking after your team's well-being. And remember that you're part of the team too, so you need to look after your own well-being too. These times, well, they're unique in history. No one has experienced anything like this. There'll be something that many of us will be telling our grandchildren as they grow up. We don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone next year. So it's really important that everybody on your bus, everybody in your firm, everybody in your family, in fact, even your friends, that they have healthy minds. Anxiety and depression at the moment are going through the roof, apparently, anecdotally. So this part of life at the moment is very important. The Healthy Mind Platter is made up of 7 activities which we should do daily to support a healthy mind. These are physical time, exercising and moving our bodies. Downtime, chilling out, where we intentionally let our minds wander. Perhaps for you, this might look a bit like drawing or reading or listening to music. Number 3, playtime, where we do something fun, be childlike and encourage joy. If you have children, an example of this might be having a Nerf war or dressing up. I often tell my wife Lisa I'll take a bullet for her, I love her so much, providing the bullet's only a Nerf bullet. Sleep time. It's obvious, and it's an obvious one, but it's crucial to remind ourselves of the importance of getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Broken sleep, no good. Time in. This is the spending time reflecting inwards. This may be journaling your own thoughts, doing some yoga or meditation. Some time for you. Focus time. This is focusing on one thing with discipline. For me, it's trying to improve my very mediocre skills on the guitar. I find that important though. It helps keep me grounded. And lastly, connecting time is essential, both connecting with other people and with nature. All that said, don't be overwhelmed by these 7 activities. They look pretty scary when they're sort of listed on 7 bullet points. Even just 5 to 10 minutes of any of them will help you maintain a healthier mind. And some things you do will even tick several boxes. For example, playing with the children outside may also represent physical and connection time. So, what are you currently doing to support your team's well-being? What are you currently doing for your own well-being? And what could you start doing for both your team and for you? We actually recommend talking with your team about how they're coping and keeping an eye out for any that might appear to be under stress, or perhaps their personalities seem to have changed slightly. A great way to understand their well-being needs is to do a team reflection survey. We have a template for this too, which we're happy to share with you, again, free of charge. By reflecting on their experiences over the 12 months just gone, you'll be better equipped to support them and ensure they're in the right frame of mind to be productive. If they're productive, your business is going to improve. All of what we've talked about so far will have an impact on your finance, on your profitability, and on your cash flow. It's important to get the order right here. Someone just messaged me, there's a vacuum going on in the background. Well, it's actually silent where I am, so that must be something to do with the big wide world web, I guess. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do to control that. There's no noise coming out of my machine, and it's absolutely dead silent where I am. So my apologies for that. Coming back to the finance, and it's important to get the order of finance, profitability, and cash flow here. Start off with your personal circumstances. Then, after doing a personal circumstance review and determining your personal budget for the next 12 months, look at your business budget and see if your personal budget is achievable given the business's cash flow and forecast. There's no point wanting to live a $150,000 lifestyle and putting that in your personal budget if your business is not going to make anywhere near that. So let's look at these aspects in more detail. Your personal and business budget. The first step in improving cash flow and reducing the stress and strain on your business is to review your personal budget. What different spending habits have you adopted recently that should carry on? What old habits or costs can you eliminate? We have a great personal budgeting template we can share with you free of charge. Anecdotally, we've found that in talking to people over the last 12 months, that the 4-week lockdown that we all experienced back in April last year resulted in most of us having very little on our credit cards. We weren't actually going out, and yes, while we were buying online, it wasn't as much as one would have thought, because there was no way of getting a lot of the things people were probably wanting to buy to them. We were all locked down. So some of those habits that we were perhaps prior to then undertaking could be looked at and stopped because we did it for 4 weeks. So looking at our personal budget, what do we need? We'll then update our business budget. This is a more complicated exercise than the personal budget, as it pulls together the different scenarios you're planning. For example, if you're going to introduce new products or services, you need to project as best you can what the predicted sales and costs will be. Different marketing and communications decisions will also have an impact on business cash flow, as will your HR decisions. So there are quite a bit more complex than your personal budget, where you can sort of sit down and look at your own personal spending and know what you do on a daily, monthly, weekly basis. Your business budget that you then prepare needs constant reviewing and updating, checking your business results against your plan and amending actions as necessary. By working with us, we can factor in some of the more complex aspects like tax, government assistance, new bank finance, and capital expenditure. We can also help you manage your cash flow. So those services are available and we think valuable should you need them. If you've struggled with cash flow in your business, and many have over the last 12 months, it will probably come down to one or more of the main 7 causes of poor cash flow. Having a close look at these as part of your planning is essential. So let's look at each one. The first is your accounts receivables or debtors process. Who do you give credit to? What payment options do you give them? And what do you do if they don't pay? If you could reduce the number of days your debtors take to pay you by, let's say, 10 days on average, how much cash would that put in the bank? The second is your accounts payable or creditors processes. What controls do you have in place on expenditure? Can you get a better deal with your suppliers, buy in bulk? Or processes, is there someone who is ordering things for your business who really shouldn't be because they're a little bit loose with the boss's money? Another process to review is your inventory process. Do you need to hold so much stock? It's a very fine line of balance between the stock you do need to hold to attract customers versus too much stock, which is dead money tied up. What lines should you no longer supply to customers? Is there something on the shelf that just doesn't move? What controls do you have on ordering? Number 4, inappropriate debt or capital structures. Having an inappropriate debt or capital structure can cripple your cash flow. For example, even though interest rates are generally low right now, should part of your overdraft or credit card debt be converted into a term loan? Should you sell other investments to repay debt on your business? Many businesses are surviving their inappropriate debt or inappropriate capital structures at the moment because interest rates are low. There's much talk amongst economists who are much smarter than I about the likelihood of interest rates going up. My personal view is they're probably not going to go down anymore, and that they could well go up slightly, but they won't go up much for over the next 1 to 3 years. But after that, who knows? Should they go up significantly, though, those businesses with inappropriate debt and capital structures will really hurt. Will there be enough cash flow coming from their business to pay significantly increased interest expense bills? Overheads are the costs which don't change based on your sales level. Things like utilities, things like rent, things like advertising. You should be reviewing these costs at least annually. Can a different utility company provide a better deal? Are your premises still the right size for your business? We've known of a number over the last 6 months or so that have retrenched and carved off excess space and done deals with landlords to get out of rental leases. Your gross profit margin is what's left from sales after deducting the costs of sales. What can you do to increase this margin? Can you reduce rework? Can you reduce wastage? Wastage is a real factor in the food and beverage industry. Where that can be reduced, it all turns straight into gross profit, straight into bottom line. Can you improve team productivity? Can you increase prices? Remember the table we looked at earlier, which showed the effect on increasing prices? Look through that. And finally, your sales level might be too low, especially due to the impact of COVID and lockdown. In fact, most businesses have taken a hit with respect to their turnover because of COVID and lockdown. We'll shortly look at different ways we can grow your sales, because that is a fundamental importance going forward. This list might seem overwhelming, but like I've said with other lists that we've thrown together today, you simply need to choose one or two of these strategies to implement. The ones that you think might be easiest and or might be most important to you. Small changes to these processes can have a huge impact on your cash flow. We can help you establish the ones most relevant to your business if you need our help, as well as share our ideas for improvement. So, the sales, growing sales. Here we have the 7 ways to grow your business. The first 5 that I'm going to talk about relate to increasing sales. Remember, we just saw that low sales were the key to cause of poor cash flow. The last 2 will relate to reducing your expenses. Sorry, 7 ways to grow your business, not 7 ways to grow your sales. First 5 will relate to growing sales. The second 2 points will relate to reducing expenses. You may think you're in a place, you may not think you're in a place to grow your business right now. But these strategies are so important for both getting back to business and recovering as much as possible, as well as for growing your business. The first strategy is to increase your customer retention rate. What can you do to delight your customers and make them want to return to you and want to return to you more? Very simple example with an old hairdressing client was, rather than booking people in for 8-week haircuts, she suggested to them that she book them in for 6-week haircuts. While not everybody took that on board, many did. Net result, faster cash flow, people coming back for more business, client retention rate increased. So what's the current communication strategy you have with your customers? Do you know what your customers want? The second strategy is to generate more leads or attract more prospective customers. Reflecting on what we've discussed today, what can you do to get your brand and your business in front of more target customers? The third strategy is to convert those leads into customers. What can you do to increase your sales conversion rate or your proposal or offer acceptance rate? The fourth strategy is to increase the transaction value or get your customers to spend more with you each time. What additional opportunities to sell to your customers are there? Would you like fries with that? Cheesy, but it works. The fifth way is to increase transaction frequency or get your customers to buy from you more often. How can you encourage them to buy more often? Well, that example I gave you a moment ago about the hairdresser, classic. The sixth way to grow your business is to reduce your cost of sales. Can you get better supplier terms? Buy in bulk, play one supplier off against another. Can you increase your efficiency? Can you reduce your wastage rate? And finally, reduce your overheads or fixed costs, which, as we just looked at, can be a cause of poor cash flow. Once again, it's best to choose one or two of these strategies that will make the biggest difference to your results. Too much or trying to do all of them will inevitably result in failure or overwhelmness, for want of a better word. One or two strategies worked on properly should, without a doubt, help grow the business. We can help you assess which ones you might feel more inclined to focus on, and then build the strategy into your budget and forecast to do that. Here's an example of what your plan may look like. Now, I'm not going to go through too much of the detail with it because we could be here for 3 or 4 hours. These things take some time to build. But what I'm going to try and do is give you a bit of an overview as to the document that we prepare in terms of our business plans, so that we have something to measure against and to keep us focused on where we're trying to be with our business. It doesn't matter necessarily if you don't use our business plan. What matters is you document your plan with clear goals and actions and have some accountability to get it done. Our plan starts with a summary of key challenges, which will help formulate the rest of the plan. Next, we record the new opportunities that exist, as well as the threats and vulnerabilities we need to manage. Remember, we're working on our business when we're doing this rather than We then have our most critical KPIs. We've listed 5 there, but 2 or 3 is probably sufficient. And it's the most important that we look at the critical ones and conduct ourselves into important habits to ensure that we measure them. Here we've got, for example, average weekly sales 8730. Well, if we're not measuring that with the actual results, there was no point doing the document. So we need to put ourselves into a habitual methodology of measuring our results to our plan. Then we have our personal spending, or our summary of personal spending. Our role and hours and the number of hours that we will be working in the current year, the number of hours we want to be working for in 3 years' time. So again, we can plan, we're doing 50 hours now, we want to do 30 hours in 3 years' time. What we'll need to do to be able to do that. We also have things which will be helpful from outside sources, such as wage and subsidy, research and support payments, that sort of thing. We build that into our business plan. We then have our annual budget, which we'll review and update each quarter to make sure we're on track. So this is where the accounting side of things fits in, whereas before perhaps we were talking a little bit philosophically, a little bit strategically. This is the measuring and the accounting. Here's our annual budget, here's our annual plan in numeric form, and we will measure that each quarter to make sure we're on track. And if we're not on track, because we're measuring each quarter, we have reasonably early opportunities to change things. And finally, we'll have our goals broken down into each department of our business. Governance, product, service, operations, marketing. You can see what we must do differently, annual goals, who's going to do them, by when. Finance, HR, who's going to do them by when. We've broken the annual goals down into 90-day goals. We've identified the actions to achieve those goals. So again, it's not just a matter of thinking about what we're doing and then putting it in a document and leaving it. It's a matter of quarterly checking that these actions have been met. If they haven't, why haven't they? Will they roll over into the next 90 days? Now, while these plans look, as I just presented to you, quite technical, quite perhaps difficult, they work for all size businesses, big or small. It's just the detail that changes depending on the size of the business. For many businesses, we won't have the 10 departments as I've shown you today. We'll just have perhaps 2 or 3, perhaps the bigger ones, the ones that are actually going to make a big difference. Notwithstanding the fact that all businesses require a plan, and this plan, or a plan prepared properly, will work big or small, the approach and strategies remain the same. It's just the detail. It's just the finer points or the volume of detail that that is required more so for the bigger businesses. So how can we help you? Now, remember, the information in this educational webinar is general in nature, and no and not specific or tailored for anyone in particular. And in fact, we would suggest that people come and get specific tailored advice and support for their own particular circumstance. That'll keep the lawyers happy. Having said that, there are several ways we can help you. We can send the price change impact resource with the tables I showed you earlier in the webinar, free of charge to you. And if you like any of the other services listed, the freebies mentioned here, the risk register, the personal budget, and the back to business action plan list, more than happy to send those out to you as well. We also offer a range of planning services, as you've seen, that reflect the differing needs of business owners in these times. One thing's for sure, whether you come through us or whether you do it yourself or even through anybody else, although we'd hope you'd come through us rather than somebody else, you need a documented business plan, and you need to review it, and you need to measure against it. We do this at JBA. We're not telling you to do something that we don't do. We take the same approach to our business that we are encouraging you to take with your business. So they're the 8 ways that we feel at the moment we can offer some assistance, some valuable support to you. Some free of charge, some obviously we'll be spending a lot more time and require a lot more of our skills and expertise, and therefore chargeable. But nevertheless, we're here to help you in whichever way you see fit. So now we've got a few minutes for questions. I haven't had any come in, so I've either bored you to death, or I've confused everybody, or perhaps I've got a reasonably balanced webinar where some things have been disclosed well enough for you to take away. I will remind you to please complete the webinar feedback once you've left, once it comes to you, probably tomorrow. And that being the case, I will, just before I go, share this parting quote with you. The most successful people see adversity not as a stumbling block, but as a stepping stone to greatness. Make a plan today for how to overcome the changes and challenges you're facing. Commit to at least 3 actions you will take as a result of today's webinar. Write them down, give each of them an owner and a completion date. Remember, if you need our support, we are here for you. Finally, thanks for making the time to attend this webinar. We do appreciate that your time is very valuable. Probably tomorrow, as I say, you should receive a follow-up email from us that we'd love you to provide brief feedback on, so we can continuously improve and get an understanding on what other webinar topics you'd like to see from us in the future. We can only improve our support of you if we know what you want as well as what we think you need. Today, though, I hope I've given you plenty of ideas to ponder. I know I threw a lot of information at you, but hopefully too some clear steps for you and your business to take. We want you to achieve the goal you set yourself, be it to survive in business, then grow, be it more money, be it to get more time freedom, or both. So you can get closer to living the life you want to. Remember, our core purpose at JBA is to help our clients achieve their business potential so they can live the lifestyle they want. Keep a lookout for our ongoing series of complimentary education webinars. As I said at the beginning of this webinar, we will loosely aim to produce and present one every 4 to 6 weeks or thereabouts. There are plenty of places to register for them, from our direct email mailouts, from the footer on all our standard emails, from our Facebook page, from our Twitter page, and from our website. For our direct email mailouts, we use MailChimp, and sometimes these MailChimp emails go into spam folders or in Gmail into the promotions inboxes. So please regularly look into these folders for our mailouts, as you may miss them because they've gone there. Also, please feel free to invite others to our webinars who you think may benefit from our presentations. You can on-send our email invitations or any of the links for registration directly to them. Our webinars are for our clients and non-clients alike. The more the merrier. But for now, folks, that's me done. I'm sure you're sick and tired of hearing me. So until next time, have a great evening and bye for now.